Hello, my fellow event planners. How are you today? Happy Friday. Welcome to the Event Industry Facebook Live. Thank you for joining me, or if you're watching the replay, thank you for tuning in and watching the replay. My name is Jen Singer. I am your host and the founder of the Event Industry. Every Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I go live and talk about a topic and answer any questions that you might have. So how are you doing today? How's your week going? Are you juggling a million things? All the little things? That's the thing about event planning, is that it's not so much that the stuff that you have to do on its own, the little elements, are like totally difficult. It's that there's like a million of them that need to get done, and it's your responsibility to identify them and then make sure that they get done before the actual event happens. And that's the challenge, is getting all of those things done, or ensuring that someone else completes the task and reminding them to complete the task ends up being like the biggest challenge. And there's so many fun things about event planning, but I would say that managing all the little tiny things are definitely really challenging. And there's a number of skills that you can develop to help you manage all of those things and get you on a plan. And there's tools that I've developed. So if you go to theeventindustry.com, that's theeventindustry.com, there's plenty of things that I've created over the years that I've been doing events. I've been a planner for over 16 years now, and I've had my own business for about 3 years. And I've created tools that I am happy to share with you to help you plan your next big event, because there is just so much stuff. So many little things about linens or plates or the entertainment or the food that all need to get done. And, just finding tools to like organize all the information. And that's where I come in. And so before I go into a lot of the skills that I recommend that are great for this industry, like say that you're new and you're like, wow, maybe this sounds like me. I've provided like a list of like key elements that might speak to you, like might be something that you want to consider for your next career. Before we go into that, I was going to tell you a little bit about my background and actually how I got into events, kind of haphazardly. Definitely was not what I had set out to do. Like, I didn't go to school for a hospitality degree, but I ended up in the hospitality industry at a really young age. Like, one of my first jobs in high school was actually as a hostess at a restaurant. And then I was bumped up to a server. And I continued on in that line of work while I was going to college. It helped support me like the whole time I was in college, and it was great money and really flexible schedule. And I liked that it was fast paced and it was fun, and I met fun people. And so there were so many fun benefits to it. What I didn't realize while I was doing that is that I liked it also because of kind of the event sort of theatrics element of it, and that it was such a great training ground for like what I end up doing today. And I use a lot of things that I learned over the years, especially in fine dining, that I incorporate with my events even today, or tomorrow when I have an event that I'm working on. All of those things carry over. All of those skills have like definitely built up to stuff that I do today. So it was the background in the hospitality. I was going to school actually for communication, and then I switched to art history. I was all over the place. And I ended up working with a nonprofit when I was finishing up my degree, and by default doing their events. And I really loved it, but it was something I was kind of thrown into, and I didn't, I thought, yeah, that was fun. And I finished up my degree and I got a job with a museum, and I ended up doing their events too. And I ended up doing their fundraising events and their holiday parties and their travel excursions and their fundraising events and exhibition openings. Like, I ended up managing and creating all these different events after I had gone to school for art. And I, at that point, realized that like this is what I was really passionate about. And I decided to go through a certificate program to get more information, because there were elements that I was not like unsure of, like insurance detail and AV needs. Kind of made it up as I went, or talked to other planners that I knew, but I was definitely lacking in some of the logistic stuff that I ended up going and getting education. So I recommend that, to develop these skill sets, either education or mentoring or just actual experience is definitely going to get you there. So before we jump into the skill set, I do want to just mention with that, if you don't have the experience or you don't have any of these skills yet, that's okay. You have to start somewhere. We all have to start somewhere. Like, I did not have any of these. And there's definitely a point where you have to just have your first opportunity of doing an event. And whether that's interning or volunteering, or you have a job like I did where you kind of just like end up in it haphazardly because there's no one else to plan the holiday party. So, you are tasked with it and you're gonna do the best and figure it out as you go. So if you don't have any experience, that's totally okay. And it's definitely very common, and everybody has to start somewhere in this field. So some of the skills that I have found are really helpful to either like something you're passionate about or just like kind of personality elements that have been helpful for me along the way. I'm going to jump into. So one is detail and deadline oriented. Like, you like spreadsheets, you like putting everything in order. Like, that is your happy place of gathering like all the puzzle pieces and grabbing all the little details and making sense of all of it. That is something definitely that speaks to me. There are some of these skills that are not, like, they're not my strongest suit. I do love them, but I would be totally honest that maybe out of all of them, they are not the strongest thing, in my skill set. So I would say the detail and deadline oriented, that is something that's what I really love about event planning. I like finding logic and order to things. So this is why I love this field. Time management. This is also an important thing. Something I'm also, pretty excited about too, is finding the order and the structure of the event and just making sure it's going to go on a flow and that there's enough time for all of the things. Like, there's enough time for a cocktail reception, or there's enough time to get people from the cocktail reception to the seated dinner, or there's enough time in between speakers, or just, you really have to think about in terms of how many people you have, the elements that you have going on, and how much time it's going to take to get from point A to point B. And sometimes it's, it takes a long time to feed 200 people. Like, you're not going to feed them all at the same time if you're doing a plated dinner. So, hi, Patrice from Virginia. Thanks for joining and thanks for the comment. So it's just, you have to think about, in terms of the time management, how it's all going to come together and how it's going to be seamless, so there's no hiccups. And that is really resting on you to kind of run the show, be the orchestrator of the actual schedule. Okay, calm and personable under pressure. This is really important, and I would also preface that this is something that is kind of a balance. So sometimes you need to be that calm, very personable, like catch more bees with honey kind of person. And then there's other times where you have to be the very not so nice person because people have made mistakes or things are not going according to plan. You have to hold their feet to the fire. You have to kind of be the strong personality and say, like, no, this is not okay, and we need to have something else happen. I'm trying to think of an example. I would just say that sometimes you have to be that calm, personable person, and other times you have to be the one that's going to like lay down the law and just let everybody know that that wasn't okay, and things need to be handled a little bit differently. Okay, strong written and verbal communication. This is where there's like the biggest hiccups, frustrations, annoyances that come with this field is communication, like assuming, or people not reading emails, or people not doing what they said they were supposed to do that's going to be on their list. And you have to be the one that's constantly just keeping up on it. You're responsive to the emails, but then you're proactive before it becomes like on fire, that you're letting people know, like, this is on your plate for you to do, just a reminder, or any deadlines. Like, you're the one driving that train, but also like letting them know about the stops along the way. Negotiation is another skill. Now, this is something that's really intimidating. There's a lot of prospective students or current students I've talked to, and a lot of them say that this is an element that is the most intimidating for them because they don't have a lot of experience. And I would definitely agree with that. Like, that is really, really tough to come by if you don't know how to negotiate or what should be your angle. And I will go into this at a later time. I think it's something I'm planning for later for next month, is kind of a strategy about negotiation. So there's definitely strategies, there's definitely points, and I will go into that. But that becomes like an element with vendors or venues, with your clients. So you're negotiating a lot of the time. Staff management. This comes into place with your vendors a lot, or if you're working with a client and there is volunteers, like I would say staff volunteer management is kind of on the same playing field. And you just need to be clear and direct. I would say that that's the most important thing, is that you outline what needs to happen during the event, and everybody knows the tasks and the roles, and that they're clear on, what they need to do. And if they're not doing what they need to do, that you're identifying it and you're just instructing them what they need to do. So if they need to be tray passing champagne and they're taking too long, that you're just, you say, hey, can we, make sure we're filling up more champagne and doing this a little quicker so we're getting everybody when they arrive. So you're making sure they're on task, but then also correcting it or going to the right person, their supervisor, to correct it if it's not going to plan. All right, hospitality experience. I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier, how this is, something that will definitely come into play as being beneficial if food and beverage details or sequence of service and all these elements that if you work in fine dining will definitely be part of your event. So if you can, if you're interested in a hospitality experience, or you need a job while you are going to school or going to a program, working in the hotel or restaurant world is definitely a great fit to try to get your foot in the door and get like some base for experience. Okay, budget management. This is kind of into that detail-oriented, just tracking everything and making sure that costs are kind of coming in as you projected, and that you're hitting the line items that your client had in mind or that you had in mind. So you're spending the same amount of food that you thought, or beverage or entertainment, that everything is kind of being managed and you're tracking it as you're going. So not before the event happens or the day before, because that's like too late to make any adjustments. So you're just knowing like either things are falling into place like where they were last year, or they're costing a little bit more, like inflation, or you have more elements, or you have more people, and that you're just keeping abreast on that so your client knows, or that that this event's going to cost a little bit more because there's more people, and you've got that under hand. The last element is creativity. Now, I would say that this is probably my least strong, or I'm not the strongest in this skill set. I would say I am creative to some extent, but I know far more colleagues that are far more creative than I am and can think of things outside the box that I just never thought of. And that's okay. And I would make the recommendation to you that find people that balance you. I mean, the type A's, like me, are not always the most creative. I mean, we have some creative juices. I love Pinterest. I love picking out. I love color. I love design. But I don't think it's like my strongest attribute towards events. And that's okay. You're not going to be great at all of the things. You're going to be great at some of the things and not all of the things. And I just know that that's not one of the things I'm great at. So that being said, those are all the skills. If you want a detailed list of this, there's a blog post on theeventindustry.com. That's theeventindustry.com. It's the skills needed for event planning, and I've listed out these skills, but you can definitely, just get this from the replay if you're watching now. One thing I would just leave you with as a recommendation. So say you have none of these skills and you want to acquire some of these skills and you want to reach out and get a, want to get some experience and you don't have any leads, so you're just going to start targeting, like say you wanted to reach out to me and you're like, Jen, I really need some experience. I think I love events, but like I just don't have any background. One thing I would recommend, because I get emails and resumes all the time, is that you, when you're sending the email, make sure that you include something about the company. So the emails that resonate with me, that I actually read the whole email, is if it looks like they've actually looked at my website, like, oh, Jen Singer, here, I really love this event that you did. That looked really cool. Here, I would love to do like an event on a boat too. So include something like you've read up about the company or the organization, or you know a little bit about something that they do, and make sure that your email is more than just like, hey, I would like a job, are you hiring? Because I don't even open the resumes of those. Like I wouldn't even look at that. But if there is an email that says like, wow, I've looked into your company, I think what you're doing is amazing, and I would love to know more, and if you have an internship or you're hiring, I would love to talk to you. And so if they've gone to that route and then they have a great resume, then I will definitely talk to them, or definitely just engage with them and let them know, no, we're not hiring, or we're going to have summer internships, so check back in May. The other element in this I would recommend is to make sure that your resume, like you've looked it over, there's no errors. If I can see like a big glaring error on it, then I definitely would probably not, engage. So make sure that you have done a little research on the company. If you're going to just blind or cold email someone, and you can, I would recommend cold emailing. I open my emails and I look at these things, but then also just make sure that your resume is flawless and that you have gone over it and you've had somebody else look at it and make sure there's no errors, so you can get that next step into your first experience in event planning. So I hope this was helpful. If there are any questions, I'll take any questions now. Appreciate everybody joining in and tuning in today and hearing all the things. And I'm sure y'all need to go back and manage all the million details for your events this weekend. So with that, I want to say thank you for joining us or watching the replay, and we'll see you next Friday at 10 a.m. Bye-bye.